Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Grace Cathedral. It's wonderful to see you today for our annual meeting. It's my first one, so I'm super excited. I think it's important for all. I'll take it. Bishops could use that these days. Let's begin in prayer. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with us as we take counsel for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right and grant us the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. I just wanted to say that it's been a real gift this year to have worked so closely with the cathedral. I mean, the cathedral has hosted so many events that I've been a part of, from the ordination to the installation, and then, of course, installation of canons. And I've loved getting to know more about the cathedral's life. And I feel like I've been every day more thankful for the gifts of this place and the gifts of generations who have faithfully served here. It's an honor to be a bishop of this particular diocese and this particular cathedral. We have a tool for ministry called this cathedral that is special in the Episcopal Church, and I'm looking forward to seeing what God does with us in the years to come. Some of the most important things I think that we're focused on in this year ahead, of course, is how to be a cathedral for the city and for the diocese, and also to be a witness for the larger world. And you're going to hear more about that through some of the presentations today. I just wanted you to know how committed I am to that work and that mission, and looking forward to being a part of it as we go there together. We're living in a time in which people have questions that I sometimes think that only a faith community can really provide answers to. And even so, really more, it's that faith communities provide a place in which we can actually discuss those things peaceably together. Sometimes passionately, but still understanding each other as fellow children of God. And I think that is a witness that the world needs more than ever right now. We have a host of challenges to face in our city, and I hope that we will be good partners as Episcopalians in the Diocese of California and here at Grace Cathedral in helping to make progress on those particular challenges that we face, whether that be affordable housing or racial reconciliation. There's a host of different issues that we face as a community, and I've recently saw Mayor Lurie at the MLK breakfast and assured him that we really want to be part of that conversation and a part of the answer when it comes to making our city as best as it can be. I'd be remiss to not say thanks as well for the way in which Dean Malcolm and his team have been amazing partners and have been so gracious as I've gotten to know this new ministry. I've been thankful to work with both Toby as a new board president and also Garrett. It's been a gift to be a part of those conversations, and the work that the trustees do and getting to know trustees on a more intimate level has really been an amazing gift to me. I look forward to the years that we have together to get to know each other better, to get to know kind of what drives us, and also to get to know how to better link our gifts to live out this mission of Christ in the world. But it's important to say to the whole team and to all of you that it's just been a huge honor to me to be serving as your bishop during this time. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And without further ado, I'm going to invite Claire Griffin to come to the podium. Thanks.
Yes, I would like to nominate Brian Day as recording secretary for the 2025 meeting.
I'd like to ask for Yeah, am I on? Okay, cool. I'd like to ask for a voice vote to approve that.
Aye.
Well, let's try it together, because I think that's an important aspect. So all those in favor of Brian Day being the recording secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
I think that we're good.
Okay.
Can I ask the secretary to approve a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Thank you, new secretary. Appreciate that. Wonderful first official act.
Okay. I would like to move that we approve the 2024 meeting notes, which are printed on the back of the 2024 annual report that you should have gotten in when you came in.
Hopefully you've had a chance to review these, because I think if you're going to try to do it right now, it would be very difficult. But all those in favor of receiving the previous meeting's minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Claire. I now invite Toby to the podium to present the board report from the chair.
Good morning. When I'm here and feeling intimidated, I'm Tobias Keller, chair of the board. When I relax, I call myself Toby. So hopefully it'll be Toby for the rest of the day. I have, as of January 1st, been installed as the new chair of the Board of Trustees. I am humbled and honored by being given this opportunity. Grace Cathedral is unusual in that cathedrals don't always have congregations associated with them. We in National Cathedral share that distinction. And as the board, we have sort of the business end of making sure that the cathedral stays going. In some ways, that's a really hard job. This is a beautiful and wonderful place. It's also expensive. And the work that we put in to make sure that we keep the fundraising going and keep the lights on and keep all the amazing programming that goes on is not an easy task. And I ask humbly for all of your support as we get there. We have a vibrant congregation, and the contribution the congregation makes is one that we could not survive without. When I think about the religious aspects of what happens here and what is the dean and the bishop are charged with, I think we suddenly have a really easy job, as illustrated by what Washington National Cathedral is going through with the sermon from last weekend. And I sort of pray for the grace that they see themselves through that, and that we can find ourselves to be partners that are up to the challenge of standing behind our religious leaders here. Ann Cassels, our new treasurer, is here and will be presenting the financial report, and we'll give a whole lot more detail as to where we are from the business standpoint. What I'd simply like to report is what I reported to the board with my first communication, which is we are in a fabulous position right now. I tried to do my best to sound like Malcolm as I talked about the swell and the coming waves that we were all going to be on. I did a terrible job of it. But we do have the wind at our back. We have the absolute blessing of Bishop Austin with us. We have a time when our voices are coming together, a time when our voices need to be heard more than ever. Our fundraising has begun. We are contemplating a significant capital campaign. In the meantime, we are kicking off a sort of preliminary trial capital campaign to make sure that when we go out to the wider community, we're on as strong a foundation as we possibly could be. We have just finished the process of putting together for the cathedral strategic plan. That will be available for you to review. It is made up of 3 pillars, and I won't belabor that given the limited time we have here today. But I strongly encourage and invite you to look at the strategic plan. It is setting us up for what I think will be a fabulous few years, again in a time when we and our beliefs and our creed will be coming under a lot of pressure to present ourselves in our best light. I would finish by saying I too am a member of the congregation. I am so proud and pleased to be a member of this congregation. I think we have wonderful things to say in the world. I think we have all been deputized or are going to be made apostles for our own creed and our own communities. And I wish us all the strength and the grace to do what we need to do and do it as a community. Thank you for being part of that community, and thank you for giving me the privilege of leading the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. I now invite Ann Cassels up to the podium to deliver the report from the treasurer.
Good morning. I am not the new treasurer. I am the old treasurer. I am here representing myself and John Berg. We will be co-chairing finance this year. He will have the title treasurer as I get to be vice chair. and support our excellent new chair, Toby. Such a pleasure. It's a privilege for me to be here. I am not a member of this congregation. I am, however, a member of the Circle of Grace, our planned giving thing, and we will come back to this. I'm going to make some high-level remarks to keep the time compacted. I want to assure you I am available personally to discuss any details of the finances that anyone, and any questions that anyone has. I have, Laurie and I have worked together for a long time, and I know the finances not as well as she, but pretty well. First of all, I just want to thank you for being here today and for being congregants and for your support of Grace Cathedral. And in your programs, I borrowed mine from Regina because I came in the side door and messed it. In your programs, the finance section starts on page 12. I'm going to be talking to page 12 and 13 briefly, but all the pretty pictures are on pages 14 and 15. So you pick your own adventure there. The cathedral has roughly 4 pillars of support conceptually. One is support from the congregation and from stewardship. A second is support from the broader community and the trustees, many of whom are also members of the congregation. A third one, which is near and dear to my heart, is planned giving. Those of us who have provided to keep supporting the cathedral when we are no longer down here in the pews, but maybe up there in the columbarium. And then the last is fee income, which is the entire staff here working very hard to make the assets work. That can be the garage, that can be a whole variety of activities like concerts. There can be things that blend the spiritual and fee income, such as sometimes some artistic programs or sound baths, things like that. And each of these pillars is incredibly important to us. On the expense side, it is overwhelmingly people. If you actually look at page 13, when we look at what is a $9 million budget when we include everything, including our seniors program, we have $5.3 million in people there. But Laurie's going to correct me on this. I believe that if you go down to the worship, music, and program, the $1.7 million we spend there is also mostly people. There was once a movie a long time ago where the tagline was, "Soylent Green is people." It's kind of a spooky line there, but the heart of any enterprise and any nonprofit in every church is people. We are spending money on the people, the incredible staff and clergy that you see here, and that is where the money goes. And I can assure you, they do not get rich salaries, and I wish that we could give them bigger raises, but they mostly get a cost of living raise every year. So that is really, really, really where the money goes. I'm going to just say two other quick things. One of which is, if you go down to the bottom of page 13, the bottom half shows you our capital budget and what our endowments are. You will see that in the last fiscal year, which ended in June, we spent almost $1 million on the building. And that means fixing leaks, upgrading the electrical system. And yes, we're going to have to work on the heat. We all noticed that over Christmas time. It takes about $1 million a year to do that. And this is a moment where I want to call out one of my favorite people in the history of Grace Cathedral, which is Mr. Edwards, who was a former chorister who remembered us in his estate. And Laurie got an envelope one day announcing that he was giving us, I think it's the biggest gift in our whole history. And it was about $20 million that we have curated and spent carefully over the years to fix leaking steps and the plaza and all the stained glass windows. And as you can see, it is down to about 8 million. We are getting low on that, and it is time for us to restore that, and we will. Toby made reference to the capital campaign. So let me just, oh, and the other pillar I forgot to mention is we do have an endowment, a lot of which has been built through planned gifts, and that is $21 million. It throws off about $1 million a year to support the endowment. So if your friends think Grace Cathedral is rich, I beg to differ. It would be incredible to see a $30 and $40 million endowment. Okay, let me just talk briefly about the top half of that, page 13. Last year, we thought we were going to need reserves to get to a balanced budget, and we used those reserves, but expenses also exceeded what we had planned by about $300,000. Lots of things, insurance costs went up, recruiting costs, many things contributed to this, but it meant we didn't have the ability to use reserves in the coming year's budget, so things are tight. And people are managing expenses very carefully. And so what this really means is that we have things we want to do. We would like to do social justice. We would like to have more clergy, and we're going to need more resources to do that. See upcoming capital campaign. Let me stop my remarks by saying I want to talk about two other people who I'm very grateful for. And actually, let me just start by saying, once again, I'm incredibly grateful for the staff who work so hard here. I want to remember Jim Forsyth, who was the treasurer of the diocese and a faithful, very faithful person here. Also was a trustee of Bishop's Ranch up in Hillsburg. If you knew Jim, you know I don't need to say anything. He was just the most incredible person, and we are so sorry to have lost him. But I also want to talk about someone who is alive and with us, because I have had the privilege of working with Lori Coleman twice when I've been treasurer, and she is one of the greatest resources on staff that we have ever had. She is tireless. She picks up all the balls that get dropped, and she does it indefatigably and with a smile on her face 90% of the time. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, one of the things that worries me most is about how we are going to try to fill her very big shoes. And so I am just going to please ask everyone to rise and give thanks to Lori. And that will conclude my report.
Thank you, outgoing treasurer and vice chair Ann Cassells. I now invite Dean Young to the podium to deliver the dean's report.
Great, thank you very much. It's so good to see all of you. One of my favorite things about cathedrals is the people that it takes. It's a special ministry. It's one of the things Lori and I say all the time. It's a special ministry to be at a cathedral, to be always welcoming hundreds of new people every single week. And so all of you have chosen to do that. That's the ministry you've chosen, not to be in a little insular community, but kind of ambassadors for anybody who comes our way. And it's an extraordinary ministry, and I can imagine, our forebears, just like us, gathered together for our annual meeting. 175 years ago, a group of people, Episcopalians in San Francisco, gathered and started talking about bringing an Episcopal priest out west to California. So they asked John Vermeer to come, and John Vermeer said, I'm really sick. I've got, I don't know, wherever they had tuberculosis back then. And so they invited Flavel Mines to come. So Flavel Mines made the trip and went all the way down to the Panama Canal, or before the Panama Canal exists, went down Panama, walked across the isthmus, and then arrived up in San Francisco in the summer. And then like a few months later, John Vermeer arrived also. So they had this terrible mistake of 2 Episcopal priests. So one started Trinity Church during the summer of 1849. Flavel Mine started it then. But in September, John Vermeer was there. And so he started meeting with a group of faithful people, and they decided they were going to go ahead and start 2 churches. And so they actually began the building of a Grace Church, the original one that was on Powell and Jackson. They started building that church and finished it in time to have the service in December 30th, 1849. So it's 175 years since then, and it's a great thing to celebrate. So you're going to be hearing more things about that this year. We're going to be talking a lot more about our history together. But this last year, we've been talking so much about the strategic plan. This is the third of the strategic plan that we've had since I've been here. The first one really built up the congregation, made sure that we had really good programs for children. The second one was really focused on, installing the cameras that made possible for us to broadcast everything during COVID. And this new strategic plan has 3 different pillars. The first one is becoming a pilgrimage cathedral, so beginning to welcome people in a whole new way. Many of you may not realize this, but the seminary that's in Berkeley, the Episcopal Seminary, it's really closing down. They no longer have in-person seminarians there. And so all of a sudden, Grace Cathedral is going to have to fulfill a role that we had back in the 1920s. In the 1920s, the seminary was in a building that's where our front steps are right now. So we're going to be more of a center for religious learning. Already the Pacific Coast Theological Society, which was at the Graduate Theological Union, has decided to move to Grace Cathedral. We're going to be having our first semi-annual meeting of the PCTS this spring. So it's a big change. And some of the changes are changes that you've already noticed. One of the parts of being a pilgrimage cathedral is renewing our commitment to girls and girls' education and girls' music. So Jared Johnson, probably the best, I think it was one of our summer town hall meetings, he got up and he said, "I'm going to start a girls' choir." And we all stood up and we gave him a standing ovation. Do you remember that? We cheered for him. And he was successful at doing that. So the girls' choir had their first rehearsal in February. Their first service that they sang for was in April. They sang for Austin at his consecration. And it's an amazing thing to see these young girls. They're so committed to the life of this church. They know that they're pioneers. They know that we haven't had a girls' choir in generations, and they're stepping forward so bravely and doing such great work. Jared's also working. Yeah, congratulations, Jared. The Cathedral Singers also is coming alive, a new focus on the diocesan choir too. But there's so many things that we'll be doing as a pilgrimage cathedral. One is there just aren't a lot of liturgies for things like Pride Week or the Trans Day of Remembrance. And Grace Cathedral's on the cutting edge of beginning to establish those for the greater church, for the world church. So becoming that kind of center for liturgical innovation, a center for formation, a center for music, that is what it means to be a pilgrimage cathedral. And that's the first of the 3 pillars we have. The second pillar is one that's going to be very familiar to you too. When Ellen Clark King was the vice dean, she was not just vice dean, she was vice dean and canon for social justice. And she took this work really seriously. She was not here for forever, I think 4 or 5 years, but she became very involved in the life of the congregation and the life of the community. So she was on the San Francisco Interfaith Council board. She was very involved in our colleagues in other faith institutions around the city, and really got us organized for marches and for raising our consciousness about all sorts of different things. And I think the main focus for a new social justice minister, we want to hire somebody who's going to be an ordained person who can really help lead us that. Social justice is such an important part of our DNA. It'll always be part of what we do. But having someone here who's going to help us focus our efforts is going to be great. And I've got to say, I'm really proud of the work that we do already. The advocacy work that we did on ending slavery now, for instance, this year, I was spectacular. It didn't fail in the ballot box because of anything that we did. I mean, we did everything we could to advance that agenda. The third thing, the third pillar for the new strategic plan is going to be something that you're going to also be really familiar with. And it's a strange thing. None of us have really completely adjusted to it. But every time we gather, there's a certain number of us in the room, but there's also a large number of us who are online. That's true right now. I got the last email I got before I rushed down the stairs to come in here was someone telling me that they're going to be joining the annual meeting online. So that online group is really, really important. And there are people from around the world who are joining us online, and we really need to reconceptualize how we offer that. In the beginning, we thought, we had COVID, and we were blessed because we installed the last of the video cameras in December of 2019, right? So when the mayor shut down the city, we were completely ready to move everything online. And we thought that when the COVID pandemic was over, everybody would just come back to church, and that's the way it would be. But nothing has been like that. So just in the same way that other institutions have to pay attention to what best practices are for digital work, our digital ministry, that's true of that too. So we want to be able to offer formation. We have a Bible study that has about 20 people that meets on Monday nights. We want to have, so if you're sick, there's someone you can talk to at the cathedral. Pastoral care that's done online too. And so that's also another hope and dream that we have of extending our reach digitally so that we can really begin to live into the large number of people who are visiting us online. I don't know how many of you listen to organ recitals online? I love listening to organ recitals online. You may not even realize that you can do it. But one of the best things you can do now is, and this is something I wish everyone in the diocese knew about, and I'm sure Austin's telling them, but we have morning prayer Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock a.m. every single day. And what a blessing it is that for Episcopalians everywhere in our whole time zone to be able to participate with us in that kind of prayer. As Ann Cassell said, I'm going to miss Lori Coleman so very much. There's people who are at the very heart of what we do, and her wisdom and her generous spirit and her ability to really be a kind of mothering person on our staff has been invaluable over these last 20 years. And when someone first arrives at Grace Cathedral, they don't know anything about what to do, but the rest of us all kind of carry the ball. But over time, that person learns and takes on more and more responsibilities. And Lori's taken on more responsibilities than any of us. So we will miss her very much. But she's assured me that we can always call her to ask her questions for things. So we're very grateful to you, Lori Coleman. Thank you so much for what you've done for the cathedral.
Thank you, Dean Young. I now would like to invite Toby Keller, Claire Griffin, and Regina Walton to name the candidates for election. Y'all can take turns. Yeah, you go first.
Good morning. I have the pleasure of introducing the three congregation trustee candidates. This is going to be a challenge. You can only vote for three of them. But I would you have in your materials some of the descriptions, but I ask each of them to stand up in turn. Tom Horst. There we are. Gay Grunfeld. And Melissa Lee. There we are. I commend them all to you, and I look forward to seeing them at our first board meeting.
Yes, I'd like to introduce the congregation council candidates. Please stand as I call your name and remain standing until I've gone through the list. Roger Doughty, John Evans, Anita Ho, Mikan Makwan, Vincent Spahn. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce the candidates for the Grace Cathedral Deanery delegates. You are voting for 7 of these 9 candidates. I did tell them as an aside they did not all have to be here, so don't hold it against them. And please stand as I call your name. Christine Benson, Christopher Hayes, Susan Hill, Stephanie Hohen, Lenny Lopez, Karma Quick Panwala, Gabriela Conseco Strand, Regina Walton, myself, and Carter Lewis. Okay. You can all be seated.
Before we move to online voting, we'll all be voting online. I just want to say thank you to all who have offered themselves for this ministry. I really appreciate that. Everyone is encouraged to vote online. You can vote by scanning the QR code on the back of your annual report or going to the Grace Cathedral website. Are we all prepared for that? You will be asked for an ID number, but if you don't have it, just enter a phone number and we'll verify your pledge status using that. Many of you have already voted, but we'll leave a few moments here for you to get out your phones and pull up the email if you'd like. There are also a few hard copy ballots in the back of the church for those who need them. Online ballots will be open until 5 p.m. this afternoon. It says to here that the bishop assesses whether to give people a few minutes or move forward in the agenda. What's the vibe? Are we moving forward or, yeah, okay, yeah? Any objections to moving forward with the agenda? Great, okay. Then I'm gonna invite Dean Young up again and also, Dean Young to the podium to present the awards. Thanks.
So it's traditional for us to have 2 awards, and they are often a surprise to the recipients of the awards. The first award is the Congregation Award. This year's Congregation Award honors Jim Simpson. Since joining Grace Cathedral, I know, well done, Jim. Since joining Grace Cathedral, Jim has been deeply faithful in prayer, welcome, study, service, and in discernment of his gifts for ministry. And in particular, we thank Jim for his tenure on the Social Justice Working Group, where he incubated our advocacy programs. And I've got to thank him personally because so much of what I wrote as an advocate of various positions on behalf of the cathedral were authored, positions that were authored by him. So he's an extraordinary writer. We're very lucky to have him. And I hope, Jim, that you can continue to do this ministry for us in the future. All right, and I don't see Jim. He may not have realized that he was going to get a prize today. All right, well, the next person we very carefully engineered. We made sure that she would actually be here because she's not expecting this award either. So the second award is the Dean and Chapter Award. So this is voted on by the Dean and Chapter. And every year we give it to a very different kind of person, and it's often a surprise for that person too. And this year, our recipient is Ann Cassels. Yeah, just look at that look. It was worth it just for that. Just there was like 2 seconds where she was still surprised. Oh my gosh, that was like the best surprise party. Anne has been the treasurer of the Board of Trustees twice during her time on the board. She works closely with our CFO, Lori Coleman, and together they have ensured financial stability, not only through the annual operating budget process, but also through relationships and contacts with our financial service providers. Over many years, Anne has offered her business expertise by serving as the chair of several committees of the Grace Cathedral Board of Trustees, such as the Investment Committee, the Finance Committee, the Compensation Committee, the Development Committee, the Committee on Trustees. Anne has introduced many people to Grace Cathedral from her business and personal relationships who have gone on to themselves become great trustees. Although Anne is a member of another church in the diocese, she is a committed leader of Grace Cathedral. Anne is often present at evensong, yoga, and concerts. If you said to, if I wrote an email to 400 people and said, I really need someone to drive down to Los Angeles for me next weekend to be at the church in Pasadena, Anne would be the person who would drive down. And she is an early supporter of the girls' choir. She has a deep commitment to the Episcopal Church, the Diocese of California, and Grace Cathedral, and we are grateful for her leadership.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. You're such a gift to the whole cathedral.
Thank you. Is there any more business that needs to come before us today? Then I'm going to ask if you will join me in a closing prayer. God be with you. Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, by whose Spirit the whole body of your faithful people is governed and sanctified, receive our supplications and prayers which we offer before you for all members of your holy church, that in their vocation and ministry they may truly and devoutly serve you, through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. Now, for the hard and wonderful part, we're going to sing together. So please join me in singing a portion of hymn 671, Amazing Grace, which is found in your annual report. And for those who are on Zoom, it will be shared on screen. That's hymn 671, Amazing Grace. You might know it by heart. Miguel, can you give us a dismissal, please?
Go in peace to love and to serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Thanks, everyone.